Hey there weavers, welcome back. This is Grace with Tangled Webs Weaving, and today I am threading the next project, which from the last video you may have remembered. This is a baby blanket for a friend of ours' daughter who recently had a baby. This is from a 2019 Handwoven Magazine, and it is called Hearts and what is it called? It's called Sweetheart Baby Blanket. That's right. So because it has little hearts on it. So I wanted to show you the yarns from this project. This uses a cotton merino blend pattern yarn with a 20/2 mercerized cotton yarn. And here are the colors. So the pattern, let's see if we can get this, you can see it there. So you can see that it has hearts and squares in it with stripes. And this is kind of the main color that the stripes are made up of, with these colors, these three colors being the hearts, I believe. And then the warp has this silver 20/2 mercerized cotton in it, and the weft has a different colored mercerized cotton, and you use a kind of an off-white weft with that of this. This is a really interesting weave structure that I've never done before. I've never used such divergent sizes of yarns. So let's see if we can show you what I'm talking about. Oops. There we go. All right. So maybe you can see that, hopefully. The pattern yarn is probably a light DK weight yarn. And then this is almost like thread. And when I was winding this, you wind it 2 threads of the 20/2 thread, and then 1 thread of this. So I wound it 3 at a time. I had 2 cones of this. I held 2 of these together with 1 of these, and you wind like 9 repeats of one color, and then you switch to this blue, wind 5 repeats, switch to the next color, wind 9 repeats, switch to the blue, wind 5 repeats, switch to the next color, so on. You get the idea. So I got it all wound, and so when I ordered it, I don't know what I was thinking. I didn't order enough. So I had to order more of this is called Cotton Fleece. So I had to order more of this. That wasn't a problem. But then I did not read the amounts correctly on this 20/2 from Maurice Brassard. I assumed, since it's a 800 yard per pound thread, that there's half a pound on a Maurice Brassard cone. That's what Maurice Brassard cones come in, half-pound cones. Now, for this fine of thread, it comes in 500 or 150 milligrams. So I didn't have enough. So I had to order more. So I had to wait for that. It's been like that for several projects now. hopefully I've got it all straightened out. So I got it on, I decided to thread my loom front to back. So that's what I'm doing now. This is 1106 threads, because you have this little tiny yarn and with this. So I had to move some heddles around because this is a tied structure. So every third thread is on either shaft 1 or 2. So I have, it goes 1, 2, 3, and then the next would repeat might be 1, 2, 4, and then 1, 2, 5, 1, 2, 6. So I needed 384 threads on shafts 1 and 384 heddles on shafts 2, and then 133 on shafts 3, which wasn't a problem. I normally keep around 100 heddles on each shaft. I might have a little more on shafts 1 and 2 because if you do summer and winter, but so I had to move heddles around, so that took some time. And I decided, because of there's a lot of threads here, and I may have made a mistake in counting the number of repeats, I decided it would be better to thread it from front to back. And I'm glad I did, because I already found a problem. I threaded one too many of one of the colors, but at least I didn't thread one too, or wound one too, at least I didn't wind one too few and had to do another one. So I wanted to show you what this looks like on the other side of the loom, on the front side where all my chains are hanging off the front. So let's go around the other side. So I've got my loom all folded up. So here you can see all my chains. And so I've got my leaf sticks here. So each cross holds 3 threads, 2 of the 20/2 and 1 of the cotton fleece. And you can see that got almost using almost the entire width of my loom. I've got it about half threaded, and it's taken me probably, I'm going to say probably about 4 hours to do half of it. So I've got another 4 hours to go. And I'm starting to think that maybe my friend's daughter doesn't deserve such a time-consuming baby blanket. But she does. And I actually, because I wanted to weave this, and it's so time-consuming setting it all up, I decided to weave 2. So that was part of the other reason that I kind of messed up on how much I ordered, I think, because I don't remember if I had planned on weaving 2 when I originally ordered everything. I thought I did, but I think maybe I didn't. So anyways, it's fine. So I put on enough work for 2 blankets, and because I thought, you know, it takes so much time to warp it up that I might as well do 2. So we're gonna continue threading the heddles, and I'm using my technique of threading from the middle out, but threading right to left. So what I'm doing is I am pulling over the petals that I need. So we'll pull over. So the way I like to do it is I pull over the petals for one repeat of the entire threading. So we've got 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, and then I need to do 9 here. And then 9 here. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. Okay. So my first repeat, and I need my threading hook. So my first repeat is going to be on shaft 4, 2, and 1. So I'm going to pull those over from the right where my stash of petals is, and then I'm going to pull out the thread that I want to thread, and separate these into the 3 threads, and then I'm going to thread these from the right. 1, 2, 3. And then I'll push those over, and then I will do the same thing with the next set. And when I get done with the yellow, I should be out of petals. If I am not out of petals, or if I run out of petals too soon, then I know I did something wrong, and I can figure it out quickly. And that's why I do that. I don't want to, these threads are really tiny. It just makes it easier to know if I have threaded them wrong sooner. Okay. So the other thing that I had a problem with that almost derailed this entire project was the weaving width on this project is 46 inches. I have a 54-inch loom, so I'm thinking, okay, no problem. However, when I looked at the set, It is set at 3 threads per dent in an 8-dent reed. My 8-dent reed was only 39 inches wide. So it isn't wide enough. It came with the loom, and you know, honestly, I rarely use reeds that are longer than, I don't know, 30 inches wide. I mean, most of my stuff is towels and stuff like that, runners, scarves. So I don't have, I mean, I've got 24-inch wide reeds because they were from a different loom and I got rid of that loom. But like, I have a 15-inch reed, or a 15-dent reed, and I don't want to buy a 54-inch wide 15-dent reed. That's just, I don't weave stuff that. My vacuum cleaner has decided that that's that little ding. So anyways, I thought, okay, I need to, oh, my timer's done. I need to buy an 8-dent reed that's wide enough. And so I went to order it, and the place that I order my reeds from was out of stock. So I called them and I said, hey, when do you expect to get reeds in? An 8-dent reed specifically. She says, well, evidently they're having a hard time finding manufacturers to make reeds, and they are back ordered, and they don't know when they're going to get any in. And even for used reeds, they're having, they don't have any reeds. So, oh, there we go. I have a ask out right now to my weaving guild to see if anybody wants to sell an 8-dent reed, or even if I can borrow one. So we'll see if that comes back. For the time being, and if necessary, I had a 6-dent reed that is my weaving width, and I use the reed substitution chart to determine that there is a combination that I can use on my 6-dent reed. So that's what I slayed it with. So for a 6-dent reed, if you slay it 1, 1, 2, you get 8 ends per inch. So that's what I have done. Basically, instead of slaying 2, because it's 3 threads per dent in an 8-dent reed, I have 6 threads. But remember, 4 of those threads are literally threads. So it shouldn't cause a problem. Hopefully there won't be reed marks in the final blanket. And if there are, they hopefully will wash out. I don't know. We'll see. All right, so I've got this one done. So see, and it takes a while, but it's not that bad. So here is the other thing that I kind of came up with when I was doing this, is winding the 20/2 cotton with the this bigger yarn, and the bigger yarn is stretchier, and it kind of, hopefully it's not going to be a problem, because it seems like the bigger yarn is going to have more stretch than the little yarn. Well, weavers, you can see I am doing the beaming of this warp. I got it all threaded. I threaded front to back, as you saw, and I slayed it 3 per dent in a, let's say an 8 dent reed. My problem is I wound this 3 at a time, and that 3 included 2 of the very thin threads that are 8-2 cotton, and 1 of the Cotton Fleece, which is like a DK weight knitting yarn. So when I slayed the reed, 2 very thin threads were slayed with 1 very fat thread, and that was all fine. And I threaded the heddles, and then when I went to wind it on, I realized that these little tiny thin threads were wrapping themselves around this bigger thread and causing no entangles. And I knew I was going to have a problem. So because I have threaded all the heddles, I could create a new shed. So what I did is I figured out what shed my plain weave is on just the 22 cotton. And that was easy because the 22 cotton is all on shafts 1 and 2. So I lifted shaft 1 and dropped shaft 2 and the rest of the shafts 2, and put a leaf stick in, and then I did the opposite. I raised shaft 2, lowered all the other shafts, and I put a leaf stick in there in the shed. So now I have a plain weave that isolates my 22 cotton, and I put those up out of the way. Then I did something very similar with the Cotton Fleece. There's not a true plain weave with the Cotton Fleece because this particular color is all on shaft 3. So I did the best I could. Every other shafts between shaft 3 and shaft 8, I raised, the rest of them I lowered. I raised shafts 1 and 2 to get the top, this out of the way, to keep it up on the top. And I put a leaf stick in, reverse the process, put another leaf stick in, and I have a pseudo plain weave in the Cotton Fleece. Now I have to tension 2 different sets of warp threads. Tensioning the Cotton Fleece is not a problem. It's thick enough. I can put a large weight down at the bottom. And you can see I'm using my 3-pound hand weight. It's the only exercise they get. And then I am taking the 22 cotton and I am tensioning it. The problem is it is still wanting to wrap around itself and cling on to itself. And I'm coming up with these horrible tangles. And I hate that word because they're not tangles. They're not tangles. You do not have to get them, to me, a tangle it's a loop and a thread goes through that loop and you have to get the thread out of that loop before you can untangle it. That's a tangle to me. But if I take and I put my finger down through that shed and I pull it down right about there, you can see it does not want to let go. Look at that. That is just gnarly. And what am I going to do with that? Now, it's pretty strong thread, but it will break if I put too much tension on it. So I have to carefully tease it apart, doing lots of strumming under tension. And that is the key. Strumming under tension, finding if there's any little fuzzies that are holding it together, and then running my hand down there, separating these layers as best I can, getting further and further down until I get this entire thing to let loose. So that's what I've been spending the last 2 evenings doing. Last night I spent all evening going through and separating the 22 from the cotton fleece because it wanted to hang on to each other. And so I spent a lot of time getting it to let go of its partner. And now I am having to do that with the 22 cotton. So I'm going to keep at it. I'm about halfway across on, and I've gotten a big chunk done. I've gotten probably 2/3 of it on the beam, but it's time consuming. And well, weavers, this warp has been the warp from, well, we'll just say it hasn't been the warp from heaven. So I tied it on, I started weaving the header, and I found a couple of cross threads. I found one that, despite the fact that I had double checked all the threading, I found a couple of the small threads that had not been threaded through the heddles. And so, the tension was way off. Working with 2 different size threads has just been a nightmare. So I undid the whole thing, untied it. I had, what am I trying to say? I had lashed on. So I decided to tie on to the front beam. I normally don't tie on. And I also decided, because of the different tensions and that the cotton, the mercerized cotton here is not stretchy, but the cotton fleece is very stretchy, I decided to tie on in two sections. So here you can see I've got the mercerized cotton all tied on, nicely tensioned, very nice. Now I'm going to tie on the cotton fleece over the same bouts of the mercerized cotton. I'm not sure if this is going to work, but let's see. This is 46 inches wide, so it is a bit of a stretch, but I'm going to spread the warp first. And these first few picks are going to be, I think that's going to work a lot better. So I'm going back and forth between treadles 1 and 2, which 1 raises all of the fine threads and 2 raises all of the cotton fleece threads. What the? No. Right. So, oops. What happened there? That's an odd feel. So one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to scan along here and make sure I don't have any threads that look out of place. So there should be 2 of the white threads in between each of the colored threads. And it looks like that is what's happening. And I'm using, to spread the warp, I'm using a pretty thick cotton. Well, it's like a 8/4 cotton, I think. It's just something I had on the spool. And I'm gonna spread it quite a bit. This last bout feels really kind of loose. The whole thing feels a little loose, but I suppose I can tension it up a little more. So I'm gonna do a few more picks. And then I've got a real thick thread in there, but you know what? I think I'm spread pretty good. I'm going to tighten up this last bout because it is really loose. All right, so now I think I'm going to go ahead and start weaving with the with this. So this is the teal color, and this is what we'll call it the tabby weft will be, and this is also weaving the hem allowance. So we're going to go ahead and weave that. Oops, and I didn't get enough out. All right. This is really fine stuff. So we'll go around the outside thread, tuck our tail, and then so what we're gonna do are 2 inches of this hem allowance. And as you can see, I am using my end feed shuttle, which is great for these fine threads. And they make really nice hem allowances. Or, I'm sorry, they make really nice selvages with minimal fussing. This particular yarn itself is kind of, I should say the structure is going to be kind of fussy because of the fact that you've got 2 different types of yarn in here. I have the hem allowance in, and I had to correct an error right here. There was a crossed warp thread of the silver with the fleece. So I did that, and now we're going to introduce the cotton fleece into the warp, or the weft, I should say. So we're going to weave this the same as we threaded the warp. Now we're going to introduce the cotton fleece. The cotton fleece I have wound onto a rag shuttle. And the reason that I did that is it's a much thicker yarn, and I could have wound this onto my larger bobbins and used my boat shuttle, but this particular one has a fairly low profile, and it holds an entire skein of the cotton fleece. And that was the main reason that I did it. So the profile is actually probably a little bit lower than my boat shuttle, so that's a good thing. The only problem is you have to unwind some of it from the shuttle before you throw it. And it is a little bit tall, so I just want to be sure I am not missing any threads. I'm going to pull this down, and I can tell this is going to go fairly slow. I should double check the set. And that is twisted around itself. Okay, I'm hoping that this is not going to be a disaster. Okay, so the set on this is 21 picks per inch in the body, 23 in the hems. What did I end up with? So this is, let's see, let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. All right, so I didn't really get as much in the hem as I should have. And then this is twisted. So I think I'm gonna have to beat kind of hard. 3. And then we're gonna do 2 picks of this. 1. Oops. Oh, I did not tuck my tail. So go back, pull that back out, tuck my tail, and this one is twisted also. And 3. I am hoping this is not going to be an issue with twisted warp threads. you can see, I have been weaving away, and I've run into a few problems, quite a few problems. So if I were to do this project again, I wouldn't. Well, okay. No, I wouldn't. There are a couple things that would have made this project a lot easier. Having 2 warp beams would be the first thing, because the tension between the 20/2 cotton, which is the silver thread here, and you can see it's very fine. It's 20/2, and the DK weight, which is the cotton merino blend. The tension differential is just horrendous. So when I beamed this, I tried to keep the tension similar between the 2 types of thread, but obviously it didn't work as well as I had hoped. So that's the first thing. Second, the reed that I'm using, which is a 6-dent reed, because I didn't have an 8-dent reed that was long enough, and I couldn't get one. They're all back ordered. I could not find one. I even reached out to my guild to see if somebody else had one that they would sell or lend me. Wasn't happening. So I proceeded with a 6-dent reed, and you can definitely see the reed marks in here, and I don't know if those will wash out with the wet finishing. I'm hoping that they might, but I mean, it's cute as it is, and that wouldn't be a deal killer for me. But the width is an issue. Having to weave at 46 inches means that I am really reaching. I don't have to slide down like I did when I wove the double width blanket that was the full 54 inches width of my loom, but it's definitely a stretch. But here's the thing that really is bad. So because the 6-dent reed that I have came with the loom, and it's a steel reed, and it is a little rough, let's say, I'm getting a bunch of broken threads along the selvage because I'm getting draw-in. So how much draw-in am I getting? Well, let's take a look. It's 46 inches at the reed. It is 43.5 inches at the fell line, which means I am getting 2.5 inches of draw-in, which is just horrendous. I have tried and tried and tried to keep the draw-in to a minimum, but I can't. I don't know what I could do. I thought, okay, I'll just use a temple, right? That's what temples are for. The widest temple I have goes to about here. So that's not gonna do me any good. The way my loom is set up, I don't think I could use a clip-on temple on the edges to go over. My husband would have to like rig me up something major, and I just didn't want to go there. So there it is. But I am persevering, and with a few modifications to my weaving pattern, I'm getting there. So here's a couple, if you decide to attempt this project. Here are a couple things. Number one, get a temple that is 46 inches wide, because that's just, it is a necessity. And then when I'm weaving, it's very critical to kind of clear the shed. So I put my shuttle in the shed, and then I pull it kind of down towards the fell line, and that kind of separates the raised threads from the lower threads. I would not attempt this pattern on a jack loom. I wouldn't do it. Because you already have tension issues going on, and with a jack loom, you're going to have even more tension problems. So this is a big bang, because you really have to pack this stuff in. And then when I come back the other way, I do the same thing. I kind of clear that shed. Oh, and here's the other thing. So I have a crossed thread right here. Now it's crossed back behind the heddles. It's not crossed really here behind the beater. It's crossed back in the heddles. So it raises about, I don't know, 3/4 of an inch. So it's one thread, and I didn't see it until I was like, I don't know, 8 inches in. I don't know how I missed it. But I figured that I would fix it when I got to the end of this blanket, and started the second blanket. I may just leave it, and it's one thread. And what I've been doing is, when I am, and it's one pick out of the 3-pick sequence. So I reach down here, I pull that thread up, I throw my shuttle, and go through. Now, typically you don't fuss with your selvages, right? To get selvages, good selvages. This one I have to. So I'm holding this, I'm kind of trying to stretch it out, making sure that that weft thread is in the separate layers. I pull this out, and then I run my shuttle, and it's nice that this is a nice tapered shuttle, because I can run my shuttle along there to get kind of a cleaner shed up against the felt line. I'm going to leave a nice, generous angle on my thread, and then I'm going to beat it. All right, now 6. And then I lay in the pattern. The pattern thread isn't quite as bad. But, oh, and I'm using, and I think I mentioned this earlier, I'm using a rag shuttle because I can fit a whole skein of this DK weight yarn onto the rag shuttle, and it's easier to work with. So throw that through there, and then I'm going to carefully and gently place that, kind of stretch my selvage out, leave a nice generous angle. Now some people do this whole, you know, they do this business. I have never had luck with this. I don't know. I don't know how you do that, because I always get these little dealy wigs so, and maybe I would get a better shed, or a better, not as much drawing if I did it that way, but I've just never been good at it. So I kind of make sure I pull that, leave a generous angle, feed it in. Change my shed. I'm beading on an open shed, changing my shed, and then pushing back. So as you can see, it's slower, but I'm getting there. It takes me about, I think it takes me about 45 minutes to weave one repeat, and a repeat is about 106 picks, I think I figured out. And it's 21 picks per inch. So, and I have to weave 51 inches for the blanket. So you can see it's going to take me a minute. So it's been a couple weeks since I dropped a weaving video, let's say. One showing me weaving. So I think what I'm gonna do, since I have this blanket to finish, which I think I'm about 10 inches from being done, and which is probably a couple more hours worth of weaving. But I think what I'll do, and then I have the second blanket to weave. So typically I like to show you the finished item at the end of the video, but I think I'm going to go ahead and post this video, and then I'll do a short for the unveiling. Thanks for watching. Happy weaving. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, or just give me a thumbs up for encouragement. I could use it. Happy weaving.